The main protagonist, a high school boy, wakes up with a headache, wishing, just for once, that he didn't have to go to school. Maybe if he had a fever, a cold, anything. But no. His body betrays him, and school isn't going to wait. It's the middle of March, but outside, everything is buried under an unusual blanket of heavy snow. The ground is frozen solid. His house sits at the top of a dangerously steep hill, and the school waits at the bottom. Every morning, he risks his life just getting there. Not that school is worth the effort. The worst part isn't the classes, it's everything else. His old friends are in different grades now, leaving him stranded. He knows his classmates probably think he's weird. Always alone in labs, PE, even during breaks. A ghost drifting through the halls. During lunch, he buries his head under his uniform jacket and pretends to sleep, as if disappearing would make everything easier. The cafeteria is too loud, too crowded, and the food tastes like sand. Then, one day, he notices her. A girl from his class, sitting alone. Just like him. She doesn't talk to anyone, doesn't try to fit in. While he hides, she just exists, calm, composed, untouched by the world around her. That indifference gets under his skin. How does she do it? The teacher asks if everyone has found a partner for the upcoming project. The class responds in unison, yes. Except for two people. Him. And her. The moment they stand, a wave of silent stares crashes into them. His skin prickles. It's happening again. The familiar, suffocating weight of being an outsider. His stomach churns, nausea creeping up his throat. His head feels too full, too tight, and then, it happens. His head explodes. In his nightmare, he struggled to escape, desperate to break free before he was swallowed whole. A strange creature loomed over him, staring, suffocating him. Panicked, he reached out, hoping someone, anyone, would save him. A hand grasped his, yanking him out of the darkness. He jolted awake, gasping, to find a boy standing over him, asking if he was okay. The boy mentioned that he had been tossing and turning a lot in his sleep. They talked for a while. He vaguely remembered the boy. They were in different classes now, but they had first met in the hospital last year. The boy then asked if he had told his homeroom teacher or classmates about his tendency to pass out when he got too nervous. Well, if they didn't know before, they certainly knew now. He had made a huge scene. Then he noticed something. His arm. Black, eerie shapes slithered beneath his skin, creeping outward. No one else could see them. He was the only one. The other boy, oblivious, assumed he was acting weird and left the infirmary, leaving him alone. These black things had first appeared last year, but only he could see them. It would be easy to dismiss them as a delusion, but they were real. He could feel their texture, like sand or iron powder, dense and heavy. Strange, still, he could control them. Since their first appearance, he had grown used to them, even found ways to make them useful. They helped him block out the world, shielding his eyes, obscuring him from stares. When he returned to class, his classmates wondered if he was okay, but the moment passed quickly. He pulled his jacket over his head and laid on his desk, pretending to sleep. Then, something small moved on his hand. A tiny, white creature stumbled across his skin, looking up at him with round eyes. These little beings appeared from time to time. He didn't know what they were, but he felt an instinct to protect them. Unlike him, they didn't belong in the darkness. He was abruptly pulled from his thoughts when a girl, walked over. To his surprise, she touched the tiny creature. His eyes widened. Could she see it too? But then she bent down, picked up a fallen pen, and handed it to him. She hadn't even acknowledged the creature. It was just a coincidence. She asked if it was his pen, and he took it, wondering why she was talking to him at all. Maybe she was just checking on him after the incident. It was the first time he had spoken to anyone in 8th grade. Before he could dwell on it, she casually mentioned that they were now partners for the class project, since they were the only two without one, and then walked back to her desk. After school, he made the treacherous climb up the steep hill to his home. Oddly enough, he preferred the climb up. It was easier on all fours. When he reached his house, he saw a couple standing nearby. He wasn't surprised. The boy was popular, after all. Once inside, he slumped over his desk, thinking about the girl from his class. Her expression had been unreadable, indifferent. She hadn't seemed to care about anything, not even the class assignment. Maybe she was just as self-conscious about having no friends as he was. That had to be it. His gaze shifted back to his desk. The tiny creature had returned. But this time, it was running, being chased. A swarm of black, shadowy figures pursued it, closing in. Without thinking, he reacted, swiping at them, destroying them one by one. The little creature clung to him, grateful. Then, suddenly, more appeared. They multiplied, swarming him, climbing onto his arms, shoulders, and head. They called him the great hero. Again and again, they begged him to rescue them. Then, his mother called from the kitchen. "Dinner's ready." The little creatures vanished. He sighed. Alone in his room again. The next day, he stood in the school cafeteria, holding his lunch tray. His eyes landed on her, sitting at a table, eating as if she were attacking her food. He hesitated. Slowly, he walked toward her. And then, at the last second, he passed by. If anyone noticed how much he had been watching her, they might start thinking he had feelings for her. But that wasn't the case. Not at all. He just wanted to talk about the assignment. Still, he silently prayed for strength. Even if it came from the tiny spirits only he could see. Once again, he walked toward her. This time, he stood directly across from her. But before he could say anything, she was already done with her lunch. She ate so fast. Without a glance in his direction, she stood up and walked away, leaving him behind. Alone. Again. Embarrassment surged through him. His stomach twisted. Without thinking, he wrapped himself in the black haze, hoping to disappear completely. He turned on his heel and hurried to the washroom, locking himself inside a stall. Sitting on the toilet seat, he buried his face in his hands. It felt like someone had seen what happened, like they were watching, laughing at him in silence. The thought made his skin crawl. He ended up throwing away most of his lunch and left the cafeteria as fast as he could. The little white creatures appeared again, floating beside him. But this time, a dark figure lurked behind them, bullying the small creatures, tormenting them. Without hesitation, he kicked the black creature away, watching as it dissolved into nothing. The tiny white beings huddled close to him once again, grateful for his protection. After lunch, he returned to the classroom. The first thing he saw was her. She sat at her desk, yawning, stretching as if she had just woken from the most refreshing nap. Meanwhile, he was starving. His stomach twisted in hunger, his frustration simmering. She had eaten like her life depended on it. And here he was, empty, drained. That was when he realized something. He hated her. With every fiber of his being, he hated her. For the rest of the day, he found himself following her, not out of curiosity, but out of sheer resentment. Every move she made, every expression she wore, only fueled his irritation. He really, really hated her. After school, he faced the long, grueling climb up the slope to his home. He wondered if he could use his ability to make an escalator, shaping the black mass beneath him to carry his weight. He had never tested whether it could support him, but today, maybe he would give it a shot. Just as he was about to try, she appeared. Right in front of him. Standing there, staring.